Every conqueror believes this moment will last. The banners are raised, the crowds are silent. The world, at last, seems still. From the walls of Babylon to the marble halls of Rome, from the steppes of Central Asia to the palaces of Versailles, conquerors have always felt the same quiet certainty. History has reached its conclusion. Nothing more needs to be taken. Nothing more can threaten them. And yet, every empire falls, not gradually, not politely, but suddenly and often with shock. Alexander the Great stood undefeated, ruler of the largest empire the world had ever seen. He died at 32, and his empire fractured before his body cooled. Rome ruled for centuries, confident that its order was eternal, until it wasn't. Napoleon commanded Europe, only to lose everything in a single disastrous retreat. Hitler believed he had bent history to his will. History answered back. This raises a question far more unsettling than military strategy or political failure. Why do conquerors always fail, no matter how powerful they become? And why does their final mistake never seem to change? The first conquest, fear. Before any city falls, something else is conquered first: fear. Conquerors do not begin as monsters. They begin as solutions. They rise in moments of chaos, when borders are weak, institutions are brittle, and people long for order. The conqueror promises clarity in a confusing world. Cyrus the Great spoke of tolerance. Caesar spoke of reform. Napoleon spoke of merit. Each offered a vision larger than themselves. At first, conquest feels justified, even necessary. Expansion appears rational. Each new victory confirms their belief. I am chosen. I see what others cannot. Success becomes evidence of destiny, but something subtle changes once fear disappears. When the conqueror no longer fears enemies, he begins to fear irrelevance. And that fear is far more dangerous, because fear of irrelevance does not want stability. It wants motion. It wants expansion. It wants proof. Conquest stops being about security and becomes about identity. The conqueror no longer asks, "What is enough?" He asks, "What else is there?" The moment power turns inward. Power is not corrupting because it is evil. It is corrupting because it is isolating. The higher a conqueror rises, the fewer people can speak honestly to him. Advisors become performers. Truth becomes filtered. Silence becomes agreement. In Rome, emperors surrounded themselves with flatterers who echoed what they wanted to hear. In imperial China, dissent became treason. In modern regimes, criticism is labeled betrayal. At this stage, the conqueror still wins, but for the wrong reasons. Victories no longer test reality. They reinforce belief, and belief hardens into certainty. This is where the final mistake begins to form, because the conqueror stops seeing the world as it is and starts seeing it as it should obey. Hubris, the ancient warning. The Greeks had a word for this: hubris. Not arrogance, but defiance of limits. Hubris is not thinking you are powerful. It is believing the rules no longer apply to you. Every conqueror reaches this moment. Xerxes lashes the sea for resisting him. Napoleon invades Russia in winter. Hitler opens a second front, convinced willpower can replace logistics. In each case, warnings were present. Maps existed. Advisors objected. But hubris does not listen. Hubris feels insulted by resistance. The conqueror mistakes momentum for immunity, and that is always fatal. Empires collapse from the center. Contrary to popular belief, empires rarely fall because of external enemies. They collapse internally first. Rome did not fall because barbarians were strong. The barbarians entered because Rome was hollow. Supply chains frayed, loyalty became transactional, institutions lost legitimacy. The conqueror assumes control equals cohesion, but control is not loyalty. Expansion stretches systems thin. The center grows distant. The periphery grows resentful. The conqueror responds the only way he knows: more force, But force accelerates decay. What once inspired now intimidates. What once unified now fractures. The empire still looks strong, right until it breaks. The psychology of overreach. At the heart of every collapse is a psychological pattern. Success changes perception. The conqueror begins to believe past victories guarantee future ones. This is a cognitive trap known today as success bias. When everything has worked before, failure feels impossible. This leads to ignoring constraints, dismissing warnings, overestimating control, underestimating randomness. The conqueror stops adapting, and history punishes rigidity, because the world does not remain static simply because power wants it to. The final mistake. Here it is, the mistake every conqueror makes. They confuse domination with understanding. They believe controlling territory means controlling reality. They believe silence means agreement. They believe obedience means belief. But people comply until they don't. Markets function until they break. Armies obey until morale collapses. Systems hold until one shock exposes every weakness at once. The conqueror prepares for enemies. He does not prepare for entropy. And entropy always wins. So ask yourself this: if conquest always fails, if domination always collapses, if power always contains the seed of its own destruction, why do humans keep repeating the same pattern? Why do we elevate conquerors only to watch them fall? And more disturbingly, where do we still confuse control with wisdom today? The modern conqueror. Today, conquest wears different clothes. It is economic, technological, psychological. Corporations seek total market dominance. Nations seek absolute influence. Individuals seek control over every outcome. The language is different, but the pattern is identical. Growth without restraint, speed without reflection, power without humility, and the same warning signs appear. Fragile systems, centralized decision-making, disregard for limits, suppression of dissent. We tell ourselves, this time is different. History has heard that before. What lasts longer than empires? The civilizations that endure longest are not the most aggressive. They are the most adaptable. Athens thrived when it questioned itself. The Roman Republic functioned before it centralized power. The most stable societies distribute authority rather than concentrate it. They understand a simple truth. Power that refuses to limit itself will be limited by reality. Every conqueror believes history bends toward them, but history bends toward balance. The final mistake never changes because human psychology doesn't change. We crave certainty. We fear loss of control. We mistake strength for permanence. Yet the lesson remains, waiting to be learned. True power is not domination. It is restraint. True strength is not expansion. It is knowing when to stop. And perhaps the greatest conquerors are not those who take the most, but those who recognize the moment when taking more would destroy everything they've built. History does not punish ambition, it punishes blindness, and it always has. If you found this story fascinating, like, share, and subscribe to Timeless Questions channel, where we explore the civilizations, ideas, and mysteries that shaped humanity.